Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 315 of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network and the Alternative Football Network. I'm Ryan, joined by two special guests here tonight. Hey, you guys aren't Trey and Adam. We've got a couple special guests for our 2025 Montreal Alouettes CFL season deep dive. We'll introduce them in just a moment here, but we're going to go through the Montreal Alouettes season here. We'll relive it. Maybe we don't want to relive the ending necessarily, but we'll relive the highs and the lows throughout 2025 here as we continue our CFL season deep dive series going team by team. Last week, we chatted Saskatchewan Roughriders with Alex Dormuth of the Piffles podcast. Go back and check that one out afterwards as well. And we'll take your comments and questions throughout the night as well. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, Game Time TV. You can learn more at GameTimeTV.ca or Facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. Before I get to the other housekeeping notes, let's introduce my special guests here tonight. It's both fellas from the Alouettes Flightdeck podcast. We've got Tim Capper and Cliffy D. Pine joining us here. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Happy to have you here. It was a pleasure to meet you guys in person even a couple weeks ago at the Grey Cup when you were here in Winnipeg. Yeah. I know it was a very busy week for you guys. What was it? Fire drill and water main break at the stadium and everything.
Oh my. It was a crazy week altogether. Just so much was going on. And then you throw that into the mix as well. It's like, holy moly, what else? Like, what else could be possibly going on? But yeah, just part of what makes Grey Cup anything but boring.
Exactly. It was a very entertaining week. Cool to see everything you guys did for Grey Cup week here. I know you were wall-to-wall coverage across the week. And along with that, hitting a milestone for the podcast this week as well. Episode 300 of the Alouettes Flightdeck. You guys want to talk about that at all? Is it out yet? Is it coming out?
It will be coming out very shortly. In fact, tomorrow, I believe it will be released. So, yes, definitely tune in because, we always do it up big for the landmark episodes. Like 100th episode, we had Ben Cahoon on, which was absolutely fantastic. Episode 200 had S.J. Green on, also incredible. But number 300, I think we topped ourselves yet again. And we're so excited to be able to share that with each and every one of not just our listeners, but hopefully your listeners as well will come and check it out as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you're kind of bearing the lead there, so we might as well go ahead and say, for us, we were very lucky enough to have a gentleman on the show who really, if it wasn't for him, it's very possible that the Alouettes would not be what they are today, or even be a team today. We're lucky enough to have former Alouettes GM and whatever title that he had on his business card. Mr. Jim Pop.
That's awesome. I'm so excited to hear that interview, and I'm sure it was a good time, and he has lots of great stories to tell. So make sure you go and check that one out and follow everything that the Alouettes Flightdeck's got going on. I'll get you guys to plug that all at the end of the show further once again as well. Let's get the housekeeping notes out of the way. At the start of the show, we always want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. Also, if you aren't already in there, check out the Canadian Football Countdown Discord community. Link is in the episode description. It's free to join us over there. Continue the conversation with us and other CFL fans in between episodes. Always a lot to discuss. And off-season brings the kind of different side of things to discuss. It's not the weekly games. It's all the off-season news, and I have a lot of fun with that as well. So come join us over there, and it's a lot of fun. All right, let's dive right in because we've got a lot to dive into here with our 2025 Montreal Alouettes CFL season deep dive. The Montreal Alouettes last season, if you go back to 2024, 9-8-1 record. No, I think I have these backwards. 12-6 record. That seems better in 2024.
12-5-1 actually. There was a tie.
Right. Was there a tie both years?
Yeah.
No,
it was just tied last year.
I don't know what I put in this document, to be honest. I had it 9-8-1 last year, 12-6 this year. That's not correct whatsoever.
No, 9-8-1 was Ottawa. Wasn't it Ottawa?
It was a very late night when I was putting this together.
I'm not
Somebody
sure.
was 9-8-1 last year. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah,
It may have been Calgary.
No, Calgary was not good last year.
Okay.
The fact that we tied with them is remarkable, to say the least.
Yeah.
The Alouettes finished somewhere in the standings last year. They finished 10-8 this season. Good for second in the East Division. Interesting offseason for the team coming into this year. Of course, the major thing, Cody Fajardo, moving on from Cody Fajardo, Davis Alexander taking over the reins. I'm interested to know, what were your guys' predictions for the team coming into 2025?
I think for us, we were always, when it came to, when we seen Davis from day one, when he got his first, look at in Trois-Rivières a few years back in camp, and we saw something. I think first time that we saw Davis, chuck the rock, we were just like, "That's good." He looked really, really good, and our thought was, if Davis could be healthy, could stay healthy, there was the potential of maybe a couple of guys with over 1,000 yards in receiving. But it's, we were very hopeful. We hated to lose Cody, but we understood why, and we kind of understood later on the why the dynamic needed to be what it was, and that's when they traded for MBT. But we were we were thinking that if the team would go as far as Davis would be at how good he was going to be at as a starting quarterback.
I think also too, we knew Davis was going to be something special, and I think fans got to see that in 2024 in the 4 games that he started and won. You said, okay, there's something here. There definitely is. Like, finally, everybody got to see what we had seen all the way back in 2022 during his first CFL training camp. Now everybody gets to see it. So now, obviously, the pressure is going to be on because Davis did enough to convince management to say, hey, I should be driving this car. You got to give me the keys to the kingdom. And they did. They had a choice. I mean, again, to basically tell the Grey Cup MVP winning quarterback that brought this franchise their first Grey Cup in 13 years and basically tell them, hey, thanks, bud, but we're going in this direction now, and see ya. That's ballsy, to say the least. But you don't make that move unless you are 100% confident in your quarterback that's going to be taking over. And a lot of people had said, can we really trust this guy? Is Davis Alexander truly the real deal? I mean, he looked good in those games, but can he really, really take the reins of this organization? Well, he sure did. Those first 3 games in 2025, he lived up to the hype and then some. He looked sensational. And this team was like a house of fire. I mean, defense, you already know this team is one of the best teams in the Canadian Football League defensively. But offense was always one of those things that was kind of hit and miss at times. But with Davis and the receiving core that he had and the running backs, everybody was just on the same page. And he looked like a veteran, a true veteran. He looked like an elite quarterback in those 3 games and practically unstoppable. And like the only way you're going to get this guy off the field is if he gets hurt. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I loved the move to give the reins to Davis Alexander in the offseason. Like, it's tough. Like you said, it's a ballsy move to move on from a guy like Cody Fajardo after what he was able to do for the team. And Alexander is such an interesting case to me because we had this conversation a little bit last week on the podcast about like teams growing their own quarterbacks. Doesn't really happen a lot in the CFL anymore. But Alexander's been that guy who was that 3rd string, 4th string guy for 3-4 years in the system in Montreal, and then suddenly got the opportunity to get some starts and didn't look too bad in those games last year. And then coming into this year, it was really exciting because we didn't know what we were going to see from him. And I think there was that little bit of iffiness probably for all of us in terms of the where do they finish in the standings? What does the record look like coming into this year? I think I still thought they were going to be very good, but we're going to be jostling with Hamilton, who just stacked up in the offseason for that first place spot in East Division. And I think, kind of nailed that prediction, because that's exactly what ended up happening. These two teams going back and forth. I figured out now why I got their records wrong, and it's because I have probably ill-advisedly all of my notes for all of the teams' deep dives in the same document, and I was looking at the Saskatchewan Roughriders, which we did last week. So those records I mentioned before, those came from the Riders. Yes, a 12-5-1 record last year for Montreal, a 10-8 record this year for the Alouettes, and they finished second in the East Division. Well, let's dive in. Like the biggest topic of the season, we started talking about it already, has to be Davis Alexander, and this really was a tale of two seasons for the Montreal Alouettes. And I think nothing describes that better than these stats I pulled, looking at the splits between when he was in the game this year, he's played 7 games, and which games he wasn't in. The Alouettes went 7-0 with a plus 99 point differential in games that Davis Alexander played, and finished 3-8 and minus 84 in the 11 games he did not play. What was it about his play this season that made such a difference across the board? Because to me, it seemed, at least like later in the season, he started to light it up a little bit more. Early in the season, I thought he was a very good presence out there, but he wasn't necessarily blowing it up on the stats sheet like, say, Nathan Rourke was doing out west in BC. But it seemed like he had such a positive influence on the team as a whole. The defense played better. The running game was better. Special teams seemed better. Everybody seemed better when Davis Alexander was in there, which I feel like is rare to see from a guy who's not a rookie, but, still very early in his starting career in the CFL. Let's go to you first, Tim.
Oh, as I said at the top, I mean, it was, what could Davis do? And we've talked to players about DA. We've talked to coaches and just about, I think it's just a matter of Davis was able to, I hate buying into the system of Coach Moss. I hate putting it that way, but he lived the locker room vibe, the whole team vibe. And I think it's just a combination of things. Could he come off a little bit cocky, as some people may have thought at the end of the year? Yeah. Okay. But
love it though. I love that attitude.
Yeah. But the thing is, he was able to back it up. And I think that if you look at just the first 3 games alone, the Owls were just blowing everybody out of the water in every way, shape, or form, especially on offense. We can only imagine, and if there's a revisionist history type of thing, if Davis had played the entire season, how good could this Alouettes team have been?
They'd be 18-0.
Very possible. Very possible. And it's not, and that's something that Cliff and I don't take lightly. We rarely predict what the Alouettes are going to be in the season, because, we're a show that covers the Alouettes. But Davis, again, whether he was on the field or whether he was on the sidelines, Ryan, he was there. He wanted to be there. That's the thing. He wanted hurt. I want to be there on the sideline. When we talked about this, he wanted to be on the sideline to represent his team and to be there to support his teammates. And that's what he was able to do. Again, if what could have been, I mean, Danny Machocha, well, I'm sure is going to be looking at many things on potentially who could be our backup quarterback for next year. But I think if Davis can train properly, get healed, get right, hopefully we will see Davis behind center for all 18 plus games in 2026. But I think it just goes to show you do need to have 2 competent quarterbacks in order to play this game. The Alouettes were at 1.5, in my opinion. And I think it just goes to show that could have been cool to have Cody behind Davis. Sure. Would it have worked out really well? I don't know. As much as I loved Cody, I just don't know if it would have worked. But the story really, to me, in my opinion, I think the story for Davis Alexander is just starting to be written.
I'm so excited to see him for so many years to come in this league. And you were talking about the attitude. I love the attitude and the trash talk. Like, that's entertainment at its finest. And I watched the CFL to be entertained. So I love seeing that kind of stuff from Davis Alexander. Yeah, you mentioned the quarterback carousel, like a little bit there, or the backups, and kind of having 1.5. You can bring in so many different names, but they might not amount to much. And I feel like that was the other side of things. McLeod Bethel Thompson had his struggles. Caleb Evans came in, didn't look too bad, I thought, but he got injured, season-ending injury. James Morgan got a couple starts, didn't look very good in those. Shea Patterson got backup opportunities, and then Cameron Dukes came and went throughout the season. So let's go to you, Cliffy, here. Any other thoughts from you kind of on the Davis Alexander of it all, and then on the backup quarterback situation, revolving door throughout the year as well?
For me, when I look back at this 2025 season, you're absolutely right when it comes to a tale of two seasons, or tale of two quarterbacks, however you want to frame it. But for how this team looked when Davis was behind center versus how the team looked when somebody else was behind center, truly was night and day. It is remarkable. And even when I think about the 3 wins that the Alouettes got without Davis Alexander, I mean, it's fascinating in a sense, because it was MBT who won those 3 games. But you take a look at things. I mean, the win against Calgary, for example, one could argue it was basically Jose Matos Diaz kicking incredible field goals and the defense just making life a living hell for the Calgary Stampeders in their own barn. Saskatchewan, okay, I'll give you that one, because for whatever reason, McLeod Bethel Thompson plays his best football at Mosaic Stadium. He won a Grey Cup there. He played lights out football for the Edmonton Elks in that stadium. This past year is another great example. He lit up the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Now, yes, they were missing their starting corners, and poor Kerfella Exame was lit up like a Christmas tree. But at the end of the day, he still did the thing, and he got a very convincing win. But then he had to fight and scratch and claw his way to just barely beat the Toronto Argonauts, who are on the downward spiral. I mean, all this to say that, yeah, when Davis Alexander wasn't behind center, there wasn't a whole lot of hope. I mean, aside from those instances I mentioned, I mean, the team just didn't look good. They didn't look together. Like, I mean, you can see they were trying, and the defense was doing everything they could to help stem the bleeding. But I mean, it didn't click. Like, I mean, this team just performs so much better when Davis Alexander is behind center. And I can understand what the need to kind of rush him back. And that game against Toronto at home, for example, where Davis scored that game-winning touchdown, but that's essentially where he made his hamstring injury even worse, and truly ended up missing the better part of the season as a result of that. I know there was pressure. There was definitely a lot of pressure on Davis to be that leader. There was pressure on the Alouettes to keep winning, even when he went down to injury. I mean, that's the thing with pressure. It creates diamonds, but at the same time, it'll crack just about anybody if they let it. So I really wanted the best for MBT, because, yeah, like Tim said, we loved Cody. We appreciate everything he did for this organization, but there is just no way. Like, he couldn't have been the backup for this team. It just would have been too difficult. And if Cody had come in and started winning, then how do you give the job back to Davis Alexander? Because, hey, Cody's capable of doing it. No problem. Let him do it. He already won a Grey Cup for this team. It's his team. No, it's Davis Alexander's team right now. You made that very clear. You made your choice, and it was the right choice, obviously, as this season proved. But not having that reliable backup really made the difference for this Alouettes team. And I don't want to harp on McLeod Bethel Thompson too much, but that wasn't it. Caleb Evans, as you talked about, looked good. He looked great in camp. I thought, okay, he's going to truly get his opportunity now. He's going to showcase what he's able to do. And then in his first start, he gets injured, a season-ending injury too, which sucks because the year before, Caleb Evans got a chance to play and suffered a season-ending injury. Like, this poor guy literally can't catch a break. I mean, figuratively and literally. And James Morgan, well, we saw so much potential in him in camp. I mean, he came in 2024. We thought, okay, you don't want to compare this guy to Davis's ascension to the top because they're not the same quarterback at all. But you see there's potential there. There's something there. If given the same kind of time and space that Davis had to develop as a quarterback, if James Morgan had that opportunity, maybe he could be something. But because of all those injuries that kept piling up at the quarterback position, he kind of got thrown into the fire and ultimately burnt to a crisp. And it's tough because I don't want to say he's a terrible quarterback. He's not. He was not ready. Simply put, he was just not ready to assume that role this early in his career. And hopefully this has been a learning experience for him. Hopefully he'll get a chance to look back at this year and say, okay, I should have done this, this, and this. I'm going to work on doing this, this, and this in the offseason. When I come back to the camp in May, I'm going to be ready to go. I'm going to really be that guy for this Alouettes organization. I love the addition of Shea Patterson. I think he was doing a great job with short yardage. And I know he's kind of been maligned a little bit for what he did in Saskatchewan, but
our little Ralph Wiggum. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. It's just unfortunate that when people think about Shea Patterson in 2025, ultimately, and I get it, you're going to look back at that Grey Cup, that was it 2nd and 3 quarterback sneak that ultimately was the TSN turning point for Saskatchewan winning the Grey Cup over Montreal. But I still think Shea Patterson does have value for this franchise. I definitely think he's worth keeping around. I think he's definitely done a fantastic job in short yardage. Grey Cup notwithstanding, I mean, he's definitely someone who I think fits in this organization very well. And given the proper opportunity to really learn and grow, I still think he can be something special for this league and for the Montreal Alouettes as well. So it was quite the year this year for quarterbacks when it comes to the Montreal Alouettes. I think that's a fair thing to say, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially that one part in the middle of the season when they brought in like 3 in 1 week. And we talked about some of those guys due to some of the injury situations there. But you touched on a couple of the games that stand out to me as like most notable or games of the season or memorable games of the season for the Montreal Alouettes. I think you talked about that comeback win over the Argos where Davis Alexander leads them on that second half comeback in week 7. I think they're down like 18 points at the half or something like that. And I remember watching at that point, we were kind of talking about it amongst our crew. And I'm like, 100% faith the Alouettes are going to come back and win this. Mostly because it's 100% faith the Argos are going to find a way to blow it. But also Davis Alexander's just got that thing about him where he's going to find a way to get this done. And sure enough, it does. And at what cost? Well, it's at the cost of a multi-week injury from there that seemed to kind of hamper him maybe a little bit here and there the rest of the way. And made him miss a lot of time after that. And then the other one was coming, they get that win over Toronto. They manage the win over Calgary the next week still. And then they come into a 5-game losing streak in that midway point of the season there. And it's starting to look doom and gloom for the Alouettes. And it's if Davis Alexander doesn't get back soon, what's going to happen with this team? I think Toronto had maybe won a couple straight there in the middle. Maybe Ottawa had picked up a win or two, and it was Hamilton had passed them in the standings. And then came that game against the Riders that you talked about where they were missing their defensive backs. And McLeod Bethel-Thompson lights it up. Tyson Philpott, by the way, fresh off a brand new deal yesterday or today?
Yesterday.
Nope. Yesterday. Yeah.
Brand new contract yesterday. Very high paid receiver. Very worth it. What was it? 230 something yards, I think he puts up, and 2 touchdowns in that game. One of the most dominant performances that I've seen. And after putting up 18, 13, and 9 points in the 3 games before that, 6 the first time around against the Riders, MBT explodes for 48 points. And I think I was at a wedding, actually, while this game was going on. I was kind of checking the score every once in a while. I was like, is my internet working? Like, is this refreshing properly? What the heck is going on? Of course, I had Tyson Philpott on the bench fantasy-wise in that game, which stung a little bit, but that was a mistake. I'm interested to know, though, other than those games, is there another game that stands out most to you guys as a memorable game from this season? Let's go back to you first, Cliff.
As far as memorable goes, I would have to go back to that game in Calgary. As I said, Jose Matos Diaz, who again has proven himself to be a very reliable kicker for the Montreal Alouettes for some time now. You really got to see him shine, and maybe that was just because MBT was just struggling just to stay on the field, and like he wasn't terrible, but he wasn't outstanding either. He was just kind of there, and that game was remarkable for the defense. Played absolutely outstanding, and they managed to knock out was it Damian Alford, Vernon Adams, Adrian Green out of the game. So I mean, you take away those weapons, and suddenly this Alouettes team had a fighting chance against again, arguably at that time one of the best, if not the best team in the league, in the Calgary Stampeders. But when Jose Matos Diaz basically kicked the Alouettes all the way to victory, including draining a 58-yard field goal, I mean, that was just tremendous. I mean, for me, that game is definitely memorable. I'm sure for you too as well, Tim, because you were actually at that game.
Yeah, I was saying, and what's funny about that game itself, the best pass in that game didn't come from MBT. It came from Caleb Evans. I think it's Caleb Evans on the flea flicker, if I'm not mistaken, to Sneed.
That's right.
So
that game was pretty outstanding. The Saskatchewan game, like, it's funny. Like I'm trying to think, like, when it comes to memorable games. I mean, I'm mentioning games without Davis Alexander in it, just because that's what made them memorable. Is the fact that you didn't have, this absolutely outstanding quarterback at the helm, but the Alouettes still found a way to win. But one game I'm definitely not going to forget anytime soon is that Eastern semifinal against Winnipeg.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And I know you're a Winnipeg guy, so it's not to pile on. It's just
no.
When you think about what took place, when you think about what took place before, though, I mean, everybody kept talking about the path of least resistance. If you want to get to the Grey Cup, go through the East. It's going to be easy. You don't want to take on the Western teams. They're going to be too tough. Go through the East. Montreal's, we don't know what's going to happen with them. And Hamilton, they haven't looked great either. Like everybody thought, okay, the easy way to get to the Grey Cup is to go through the East. And I kind of feel like Winnipeg started thinking that too. Because basically they could have won certain games that would have put them in a better position to be taking on Calgary, for example, in the West, like staying in the West as opposed to crossing over. But they made their choice. They decided they were going to cross over to, play Montreal. And I think Davis Alexander kind of took that. He took note of all that. Everybody talking about how easy it's going to be, and Davis is banged up, and he's not going to be able to go, and all this stuff, and that just fueled his fire. That just got him going. That got his juices flowing, and he played an absolutely outstanding game. Like he looked tremendous. I mean, aside from that third quarter where things kind of fell apart, where they basically pissed away a 19-point lead. I think it was
something like that. Yeah,
I think it was like 25-6 at one point. Mm-hmm. And the Alouettes let Winnipeg come all the way back. But then once they got themselves back on track, it was, the rest, as they say, is history. But
yeah, besides those 3 minutes, they played a glorious game.
They really did. I mean, and great atmosphere. Everything was just, it was the perfect storm as far as I was concerned for that game. And remarkable in the sense that because of that, Winnipeg, for the first time since 2018, was not going to be in the Grey Cup game. I mean, that's mind-blowing in and of itself. And that really was because of the Montreal Alouettes, because, the path of least resistance, as they talk about. I mean, no, at the end of the day, you got to play those games. Games aren't played on paper, right? They're played on the field. And Montreal, simply put, wasn't going to, they weren't having any of that. So for me, that would be, if I had to pick one game to be truly memorable for 2025, it would have to be that Eastern semifinal.
And by the way, why don't they play the game on paper, Cliff?
Because paper burns.
That's right.
Ooh.
Paper burns.
I'm learning so many great things here today from you guys. This is great. Words of wisdom for sure. Yeah, the path of least resistance thing was always just dumb to me, and it proved that I don't think there was any good option for Winnipeg to make it out of the first round of the playoffs. That either way they went, but how can the path of least resistance be against a guy who's never lost a start in the CFL? I don't understand that. Something doesn't add up there for me. What about you, Tim? Memorable moments? I think you said you were going to mention this game as well. Anything on that one, or anything else this season stand out
Well,
to you?
for me specifically for the East semi is because of Davis Alexander. Despite how healthy was he? I mean, we'd seen him in practice a little bit. And again, I always stress to people, if you have a chance to go to practice, go to your team's practice, because it's very possible you will see something there that you may not see anywhere else, and that may surprise you. Usually say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's kind of what happens in practice stays in practice type of thing. You'll see a lot of things just come out of the woodwork. It's kind of like Davis in the second to last practice at Grey Cup. He surprised us with something there too. Cliff will agree with me on that one. But it was just a matter of him. His first start, his first playoff start. I think it actually just went to show what type of player that he was, despite what he had gone through all season. And obviously, Owls fans couldn't have been any more happy to see what he was able to do. Was he perfect? No. Was he close? Yeah, it was close enough. But it's it always seems to be despite Davis may not have the best stats as always that he did like in the first 3 games of the season. But if he's able to consistently put up 250, 300 yards and do a touchdown, a passing touchdown, usually he'll win. Usually the team will win. But I'm trying to think, if was there another game that really stood out to me? I guess I don't know. I mean, I'll say this, and this is not harping on just it. I will say this: the last game for the Alouettes in Ottawa. The only reason why I'm bringing it up is because the Alouettes, they may not get a brand new stadium anytime soon, but they got TD Place as their home away from home. Percival Molson Stadium West. We'll take it. It's just slightly west, but with the Owls winning their 12th straight game in Ottawa. So I guess that's one of the other ones that kind of stood out to me. And that wasn't, it was just one of those games. But I don't think off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of any others. I mean, other than the Grey Cup itself, but I don't know.
The Thanksgiving game was pretty excellent as well.
Mm-hmm.
Also against Ottawa.
Yep, that's true.
I mean, there was all kinds of great special team play. Davis looked outstanding. Defense was on fire. I mean, and just a great atmosphere all around with it being Thanksgiving. I mean, to me, like that day is definitely going to be memorable for me for so many reasons. Like just from the tailgate all the way to us doing Flightdeck live on the field afterwards, talking about the game that we just saw. Yeah. I mean, it was just a tremendous day all around. But I mean, that football game itself too was absolutely incredible. I mean, again, just Montreal was just reminding everybody yet again that they are not to be taken lightly. I mean, if you truly think the path of least resistance was through Montreal, that should have been one of your first indicators that maybe not.
Yeah, I was about to say, and at a quarterback that basically Davis at that time between 80 and 90% healthy. I mean, he was never healthy for the entire season. A lot of people don't know that, unless you heard the what was being talked about at Grey Cup. But yeah, again, if Davis had, you can only imagine what it would have been like if Davis was 100% coming into camp.
Yeah, the only other one that stands out to me was, I think, week 3 against Edmonton. They jumped out to that huge lead, and that's where Davis Alexander first gets injured, and suddenly Trey Ford gets the comeback going for Edmonton. And the Alouettes seal the deal in the end and get it done. But that was, in hindsight, almost the first sign of like, oh, we need Davis Alexander this season, because the team started to struggle. And then going next week into Hamilton, and that was a huge loss, 17-35 to the Ticats, with MBT getting his first start in that one there. So that was kind of not the beginning of the end, but the tale of 2 seasons started to show its mark at that time there. We talked about Jose Meltos Diaz. Got to give him a shout out. You mentioned the club record for 58-yard field goal, also a club record 58 field goals on the season. He was money throughout the entire year, and for a team that had to play 11 games without their starting quarterback and struggled to move the ball, having a guy like that can boot it from past 50 pretty easily and also kick just a boatload of field goals is certainly going to help you get enough points on the board to try to stay afloat offensively, even if you're not moving the ball a whole ton. So I wanted to give him a shout out for that one there. I want to talk about the running back situation a little bit. We focused a lot on quarterback. Running back was an interesting thing for the Montreal Alouettes this year for me as well, because big storyline coming into the season is cutting Walter Fletcher in training camp or right before training camp, who was such an integral part of this offense last season, and seemingly cutting him without, to us, maybe from an outside perspective, maybe you guys more inside perspective, kind of had an idea why of like, well, who is going to be next in line for this team? I know Sean Thomas Erlington had been with the team for a couple of years. He got the start out of the gate for the team. Travis Tice got in there for some starts and some backup duties. And then Stevie Scott III was the third string to start the year. And due to injuries to the other two, suddenly got the starting role. And he only started 5 games, but he led the team in rushing with 418 yards on the season. And boy, those final couple of games and into the playoffs, he really seemed like a monster out there on the field and could be an integral piece going into next year. Let's go to you first, Tim. What are you thinking about the running back situation?
Well, I will admit, I mean, if anybody goes back to last year, when it came to Walter Fletcher, we were convinced that he was the best wide receiver out of the backfield when it came to screen plays and being able to use him as a double threat. So the Alouettes right there had to make sure that they were going to be able to have somebody as good or if not better than what Fletcher was able to do out of the backfield. I think what you look at all the guys that said, ST, as I said, had been with the team. And what most people don't know is, the emergence of Travis Tice. It's how the Alouettes got him, came into camp late, made a name for himself in the last preseason game in Ottawa. I think if Tice had not gotten hurt and hurt his ankle, I think he probably would have done a lot better. But to be fair, it also showed us what we were able to see what Stevie Scott was able to do. And with all honesty, I think Cliff has talked about, the type of running back that Tice can be, because he's a big boy, low center of gravity. And going into 26, I can only imagine if these guys go back to back as a 1-2 tandem, I think it's going to be great. I don't think it'll be a year when it comes to having just one guy, but I think at the time the guys were able to step up when each of them got hurt, because STE got hurt, as Tice got hurt. So Stevie Scott was the guy. And we were wondering what was going to happen. I mean, with the quarterback situation being kind of garbage from time to time, how much was Coach Moss going to lean on the running game? Because we've seen in the past where sometimes it just feels like it's been completely ignored. And if I remember correctly, Cliff, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was in either the second or third game of the year before DA went out, where the Alouettes ran 15 consecutive was it pass plays, if I'm not mistaken. Was it RPOs? No, it was pass plays.
Yes.
And so everything it was just weird. So the running game, as I said, losing Fletch was tough. But as we have learned in years past, Ryan, by speaking with specifically Danny Machocha, we may give a player a certain grade, but if you can understand the reasoning on the grade that Danny and the organization may give somebody, gives a little bit more insight on why X player may stay or may leave, or maybe let go. And I think that may have been the issue when it came to Walter Fletcher. As much as we love Fletch, and the integral part that he was with the team, they found somebody who could probably do it a little bit better. And I think 26 will be a good gauge on how the running game will go in Montreal.
I mean, it speaks volumes too that nobody else picked him up throughout the season. Everybody's talking about preseason as well, right? That like, oh, he's the next big guy. Like, oh, Ouellette might get it or got injured in game 1. Okay, he's going to Saskatchewan. They go Kadeem Carey instead, and then they call different guys up.
He sat out the last. He was a healthy scratch for the last preseason game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's an interesting scenario, and it led to kind of this change here. You talked about that week 4 game. I think I know which one you're talking about, because that was Alexander gets injured in week 3. Week 4, division rival against the Ticats. MBT gets his first start in an Alouettes uniform. They put all 3 running backs on the roster that game, and all 3 running backs combined for 4 carries on the night. So that is the pinnacle of that section of the season there. Any other thoughts on the running back situation from you, Cliffy?
Just watching the emergence of these guys. I mean, we already knew what to expect out of Sean Thomas Erlington. I mean, he's a veteran who's, played outstanding football last year. I mean, again, we talk about what Fletch did in 2024, but the tail end of 2024, Sean Thomas Erlington came in and played absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he was a special teams demon to start, but he showcased what he was able to do, and it was obviously good enough combined with what Travis Tice and Stevie Scott was able to bring to the team to say, peace out to Fletcher. Again, a move that definitely took everybody by surprise. I'm like, okay, well, if you're trying to replace Walter Fletcher, you better have some damn good talent. And sure enough, and it took a little while for it to all come to fruition, but Travis Tice and Stevie Scott are the future when it comes to the running back position in Montreal. They showcased it throughout the year. I mean, Travis Tice is just, I love the way he plays. It's like tackling a bowling ball. He's very much like AJ Ouellette in the sense that it is so hard to tackle him. He's almost unstoppable. And when he went down to injury and it was Stevie Scott time, oh my, this guy just came in like a house of fire. To see what he did in the playoffs alone, that Eastern semifinal game, he played arguably his best football game. And he didn't seem to get a whole lot of attention until like maybe the second half of the Eastern final. But I mean, why the Alouettes didn't go more with Stevie Scott and just trying to hit that run defense against Hamilton a little bit more. Again, I'm not a coach, so I mean, I can't speak to why they decided to, try to light it up in the air as opposed to just ground and pound. Because that one series in the Eastern final, it was Tice, it was Scott, it was DA, all run. And they just basically ran the ball all the way downfield. And ultimately ended up with, going for a field goal as a result. But still, you saw the impact that this team was able to have in the backfield and looked fantastic in doing so. Even in the Grey Cup, Stevie Scott had a rushing touchdown, had a couple of really nice runs. I mean, he showed that he can be the future of this organization for sure. And as long as he and Tice can stay healthy, the sky's the limit. I mean, I think with the running back position right now, it's I always laugh because when things go bad, obviously the run game gets ignored. You're down by 2-3 touchdowns. You're going to just try to keep airing it out in hopes of being able to come back. But I mean, sometimes you really just have to trust your running backs because these guys too are strong. They're downhill runners. They're not afraid to keep their legs churning and just keep going for those extra yards and just, as I said, ground and pound. Like that's what that's that kind of running back style that I love. Is they just not afraid to get their hands dirty and just lower the shoulder and just get those yards that way. I mean, if you can turn on the Jets and just go for a rip, absolutely, that's great too. But I mean, the way these two guys play the running back position, I think could be a tremendous asset for Davis Alexander. This way, he doesn't feel like he has to air it out every single time. To have that confidence to be able to, turn around and give the rock to one of those two guys. I mean, that's going to extend his career. It's going to open up the playbook even more for the Montreal Alouettes offensively. I mean, if this team is smart, and I do believe they are smart, they're going to invest as much as they can in ensuring that Stevie Scott and Travis Tice are focal points in the offense in 2026 and beyond, because you got to have a balanced attack. As no matter what, you can't just air it out all the time. No matter how good of an arm Davis Alexander has, no matter how many amazing receivers he has at his disposal, you can't look past the run game for Montreal. They've proven it time and time again that you give them the time and space to do it, they're going to do great things. And I fully see that happening again in 2026 and beyond.
I'm giddy thinking about the offensive potential of this team next season if everybody can stay healthy with the involvement of Alexander again at quarterback moving forward. You talk about the potential of these running backs. And we haven't really even talked about the wide receivers yet. And we mentioned Tyson Philpott gets that huge contract extension. I mean, he's the last 2 years he struggled to stay healthy, but when he's been out there, he's been phenomenal. Like 804 yards in 12 games for him this season. And then to me, the Alouettes have the most underrated receiver in the CFL, and that is Tyler Snead, who put up 119 target. He had 119 targets, 84 catches, so over 70% catch rate for 1,129 yards and 4 touchdowns, despite playing with 4 different quarterbacks on the season, 3 of them who didn't find much success, and also being kind of that number one guy. I know Austin Mack was injured for a while. Tyson Philpott was injured for a little while. Like, there were stretches of the season where it was Tyler Snead and Sure, Speaker and Rambo and Hollins. They stepped up in different categories, but he was the clear number one guy getting it done regardless of who was at quarterback. So I am super excited that he seems to be under contract for this team and going into, I think they actually re-signed him for a 2 to 3 year deal recently as well, right? So 2-year deal there. So the future is bright there. Any other thoughts on the wide receiver position, Tim, as we're talking about that?
Well, as I said, we were saying if Davis was able to stay healthy this year, we were thinking that they would be, we'd have at least 4, potentially 4 wide receivers with over 1,000 yards. For Tyler, the need for Snead, it's just mind-boggling in itself to be able to have over 1,000 yards with as many quarterbacks that he had this season. That in itself really is his story for 2025, in my opinion. For a guy who's, can you imagine what it would be like if DA stays healthy? What those two could do, and same thing with Philpott, same thing with the other guys. I mean, we're lucky to have a wealth of riches when it comes to wide receivers. It's tough to see some of these guys to be on a healthy scratch sometimes, but I think it just goes to show with Mac going down, with Tyson going down, these guys are able to step up and still be able to, somewhat compete quite well despite the quarterback who was under center. I can only imagine what it's like, and I think it's still. I know it'll probably change, but it's actually quite nice to see that Danny Machocha is willing to pay Tyson what he did and make him at least. I think, is he still the highest paid Canadian wide receiver in the league? I think
he's got to be up there,
at least right now. For now,
until Sam Emilus gets his deal.
Yeah.
But
that's pretty much set the bar for, like, if I'm Brady Oliveira or Samuel Emilus, I'm just like, oh yes, thank you. The bar has been set pretty damn high, and those guys are going to want to get paid, and if it's not by their respective teams, someone will pony up the dough for them.
I'm scared as a Bomber fan to see what Brady Oliveira's contract is going to demand after all of this, as the Canadian running back for sure. We've talked a lot about the offense. I do want to talk about the defense here yet tonight and give them their flowers too, because we talked about it already, like pretty dominant across the board. They were kind of top 3, top 4 in a lot of the defensive categories. The most, I guess, obvious stat that showed their dominance at times this season to me, 604 pass attempts against, 7th most, or 7th, so I guess that's the 3rd most in the CFL. Teams threw the ball a lot against the Alouettes, but they averaged the least yards per game against through the air at 256.9. So that pass defense was great. They allowed the least 30-plus yard completions. They tied for the most sacks, most fumble recoveries. Defense had its moments here for sure. Who stood out to you the most on the defensive side of the ball, Cliffy?
Oh, gosh. I mean, there's definitely a lot of superstars, but for me, Isaac Adeyemi-Berglund just proved time and time again that he truly is the uncrowned most outstanding Canadian. I know he's the Eastern nominee for the past 2 years, and it's so unfortunate that he's had to go up against Brady Oliveira and Nathan Rourke, especially this year, going up against Nathan Rourke, considering how phenomenal he played this year and how he's, like, everybody's bought into the whole Kid Canada thing and how he, it felt like he stood up for everybody when it came to, discussing how he felt about the rule changes that were going to be taking effect starting next season. I mean, everybody was loving Nathan Rourke big time. And so I was like, well, yeah, he's definitely good and he definitely deserves the accolades and everything like that, but don't sleep on Isaac Adeyemi-Berglund. This guy is just a machine. And so dangerous. I mean, watching what this guy does day in and day out. I mean, the way he preps for a game and the way he attacks everything. I mean, he has truly become a leader. Like, he's still a young man, and he's already become like such a leader, such a commanding force on the defensive line. And we've known for years now that the defensive line is Danny Machocha's pet project. Like, he is constantly trying to find ways to make it better. Even when they won the Grey Cup, he's still tinkering with it. He's still making little changes here and there, trying to improve upon, what some would say maybe be perfection. But I mean, he's just constantly working at it. And one of those moves back in 2024 was to sign Isaac Adeyemi-Berglund in free agency. And what a find. What an absolute find he has truly been. And he has embraced Montreal. He has embraced being an Alouette. He loves it. He loves the city. He loves this team. He loves playing with these guys, like all these guys on the defensive line. I mean, you're talking about guys like Lawal Ugalak, Dylan Wynn, Sean Lemon, Joshua Archibald. I mean, there's so many studs on this defensive line, and he just stands head and shoulders above them all because just the way he carries himself, the way he brings that energy and that enthusiasm and just playmaking ability. I mean, he scored his first touchdown this year, the very first game. Incredible, just absolutely incredible. And just the way he gets after quarterbacks is remarkable. He is just such a disruptor, and just the way he brings it each and every game is like nothing I haven't seen anyone play like that in a long. I have to go back to John Bowman as far as guys on the defensive line that just are simply dominant year in and year out. And I know it's still early in Isaac's career, but I mean, he can go for quite some time still. And it's just I could definitely see him nominated again for, I felt he really should have been nominated for most outstanding defensive player as well as most outstanding Canadian, but he's going to get his eventually. He's going to get his championships. He's going to get his awards there. You can't hide talent, and you can only deny him so long, his accolades, his awards. I mean, he's going to win these most outstanding awards eventually, but my God, like for what he has been ever since he became a Montreal Alouette, he truly has redefined what this defensive line is all about here in Montreal.
Yeah, 11 sacks on the year. Next highest was actually Tyrese Beverette at 7. So he was definitely the biggest force on that defensive line. It's going to be tough for him to win those most outstanding Canadian awards, as you mentioned, as long as likes of Oliveira and Rourke are in the league. I mean, let's be real. If he continues at this level, Rourke's probably winning that award for the next 5 years if he's able to. And you may agree or disagree with that, obviously, but no, he deserves recognition. Absolutely. What about you, Tim? Anybody else on the defensive side stand out to you?
Well, I think one of the stories that Cliff knows about too is how we talk about what happened with Fletch at the beginning of the season. Well, let's also talk about the departure of Reggie Stubblefield via free agency to Hamilton. A guy that both Cliff and I know. He wanted to stay in Montreal, but he was just given an opportunity to make money where he did, and the contract that he got in Hamilton. It's just a matter of we saw a guy emerge in Lorenzo Burns, a path that's very similar to some of the guys that have come in recently. We saw what happened with Kamian Ento. I think Cliff will probably mention somebody else when I'm finished here. About it's just a matter of who was able to step up into Stubby's spot, and it worked out quite well for Lorenzo. I think it just goes to show that these diamonds in the rough that they're able to bring in, whether they be on the practice roster or they're brought in late in camp, is something that not only Danny Machocha but also Noel Thorpe are able to get out what they're able to get out of these guys in order to make allow the Alouettes defense to still dominate as much as they do. So to me, I think that Lorenzo Burns is probably one of my stories of the year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Heck of a season for him as well. 69 tackles on the season, a couple interceptions, a couple forced fumbles. Was definitely one of the top players on the stats sheet at a minimum there as well. So Let's see. I guess we've talked quite a bit now about the season. Obviously, up and down season. They go to the Grey Cup. It's a tough matchup against the Riders. You have to wonder if DA was healthy at the end there. Could they have gotten it fully done in that game? They came so close on the goal line. This team seems like a team right now coming out of 2025 that is right there as a championship caliber team. So now as we head into the off-season mode, we've got the long off-season ahead of us here. What's the focus for the Alouettes in your guys' minds, Cliffy?
You have an absolutely phenomenal quarterback in Davis Alexander. You have a guy that is going to win Grey Cup after Grey Cup, without question in my mind. And it's not hyperbole as far as I'm concerned. He has everything possible to be a multiple Grey Cup winner for the Montreal Alouettes. He needs a backup, though.
Yeah.
It can't be a backup who, I'm sorry to say, is past his best before date, or a guy greener than the grass that he's playing on. You need a good, experienced quarterback that's not too old, not too young. You need to find that. He doesn't even have to play the same style as Davis Alexander either. I mean, if you find someone like that checks off all those boxes, great. But I mean, I want to see the Alouettes bring in someone who is a young veteran, someone who knows this game, who has played this game at a good level, someone who can understand that, if need be, he can step in and not lose games for this organization. I think Danny Maciocia truly felt in trying to do right by Cody Fajardo, bringing in MBT would have been that guy. And I wanted to truly believe that he could have been that guy. I mean, again, MBT won the Grey Cup with the Argos back in 2022. He didn't forget how to play football, one would think, but maybe it could just simply be a matter of it just was not a good fit. Like, this system that's in place right now was not a good fit for McLeod Bethel Thompson. And okay,
he also wasn't 100%. You and I both know he was not 100%. Something was off with his elbow.
Agreed. There was all this to say that he was not the answer. And my hope, he is a pending free agent, and my hope is that he realized how fortunate he was to be on this team, to get to the Grey Cup, have a chance to win a Grey Cup, and maybe ride off into the sunset as a Grey Cup champion, which again would have been an absolutely fantastic story for MBT. But I think he's got to realize too that, my time has come and gone, and Montreal has to realize that too, and find someone that can be a great backup for Davis Alexander. James Morgan will get his due in time, but as I said, he's not quite there yet. Caleb Evans, if he can stay healthy, is definitely an option, but it's the staying healthy part right now, and that it's just unfortunate that he suffered 2 bad knee injuries in consecutive years. Like, that really sucks. Shea Patterson, again, I think has done a fantastic job in short yardage. Someone that could, in time, perhaps also be developed in that way as well. But I think his bread and butter is short yardage, and maybe that's how it should stay. And again, there's a lot of quarterbacks that have made a very fine career in doing that. So what Danny Maciocia has to do, and Jason Moss as well, is find that quarterback for Davis Alexander that can spell him off if need be, to not take the job from him or try to take the job from him, but just help him be the best quarterback he can be, so that if, God forbid, something does happen, whether it's a hamstring or another injury that just happens to befall him, that this quarterback can step in and not lose games for this organization, that the team itself can feel confident in player X stepping in behind center. It's like, okay, all right, we can roll with this guy. We're good, and just keep on going, because the way this team is built with Davis Alexander as the quarterback, I mean, this is truly the team to beat as far as I'm concerned. But you got to have all the pieces in place, and for me, I think that's going to be the number one concern right now, and the number one target I think for Danny Maciocia is to find that quarterback. Of the quarterbacks that are in free agency right now, there's certainly some intriguing options. I guess a lot will depend on, do they want to come to Montreal? Are they willing to accept the idea of being a backup? Are they willing to be a part of the scenario that I just painted? Maybe, maybe not, but it's worth finding out, I think.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. They got to do something. We can go back to the start of this show and we talked about those just splits and point differential between when DA was in there and when the backups were in there. Tim, what about you for free agency coming up? What's the focus?
You got to look at the list, and Cliff and I haven't talked about it openly yet. We will when we go over our year in review and stuff like that. And we go over the lists. We always have an idea of who we think Danny Machocha is going to want to re-sign. There's some interesting names when it comes to free agents this year for the Alouettes. The guys that we think that should come back, and that's very possible that there will be a couple of those that won't. But I'm on the same wavelength as Cliff when it comes to getting a competent backup quarterback with CFL experience. I know there will be tweaks when it comes to the offense, and there will be tweaks when it comes to the defense. I'm curious to see how Danny Machocha is going to potentially spend his $6.2 million in the cap. So I'm really curious to see what happens. Obviously, we've already signed a few of them. Some very surprising, not necessarily who they signed, but how many years they were assigned to. But I'm really curious to see what happens and see these potential free agents from across the country come into Montreal. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason.
Yeah, looking at the list myself, like to me, I see a lot of defensive players. We just talked up all the greatness of the defense this year. I see a lot of the defensive players on that list, and the biggest names on the defense are currently on the free agent list. So, how many of those guys can they bring back? Some of these guys have been with the team for a long time. Do they get replaced with some of those younger pieces that have been starting to step up, and do they save some cash that way and go out and bring in some big pieces? I don't think they need to, they're a team to me that can try to bring back a lot of their free agents if they can make the cap work and tinker a little bit, and they'll be able to find their way back to the dance again for sure. If I had one wish for the team, I think would maybe be just a little bit more depth at wide receiver. I mean, we talked about the top end guys are phenomenal at wide receiver, but we also talked about some injury concerns with Tyson Philpott, with Austin Mack, etc. And I felt with when Philpott got injured, especially the Canadian depth at receiver for this team was really tested, and there wasn't that next in line that was making a huge impact at the position. So if he can find a way to fit it in while also trying to bring back all these high priced players on defense, if they can find that depth receiver or two out there to really help out DA continue to grow in his role as the quarterback of this team with the receiving core there, would be my Alouettes off-season Christmas wish, I guess, on top of bringing back the pieces. But I'm just so excited to see Tyson Philpott get that huge extension yesterday, because he's absolutely a name you can market around with this team, and should be an interesting off-season for the Montreal Alouettes for sure, coming up as well as the rest of the league. Any other thoughts on the Alouettes season from either of you before we start getting into wrap-up stuff here?
I think for me, when I look back at this season, I mean, it was definitely a season to remember. And it's kind of funny to think, okay, well, yeah, you went to the Grey Cup and you lost the Grey Cup to Saskatchewan, which is incredible in and of itself, considering the history that this Alouettes team has against Saskatchewan. I think for them, it was probably exercising a lot of demons in winning that Grey Cup a couple weeks ago. But when I think about Montreal and what they've been able to accomplish this year, despite everything that happened, that in itself is remarkable and needs to be celebrated. And I think people realize that this is a very good football team. They're not perfect by any stretch, but the key elements that they've got locked into place, like Davis Alexander's here for the next couple of years. Now Tyson Philpott's here for the next couple of years. Tyler Snead's here for the next couple of years. Even some of the guys on defense too. This team knows what they want. They want to be together. The camaraderie and the community in that locker room itself is one that these guys wouldn't trade for anything. I think. I think, yeah, guys want to get paid, but at the same time, do you want to be part of a winning organization? Do you want to have the opportunity to compete for and go to the Grey Cup year after year after year? Montreal is doing everything that they can to put that kind of a team on the field. And what's really remarkable too is in 2023 and 2024, Montreal Alouettes had the lowest payroll in the Canadian Football
Mm.
League. And look what they were able to do. You win a Grey Cup in 2023. They have the league's best record in 2024. This year, go back to the Grey Cup. So, I mean, obviously what Danny Machocha and Jason Moss have put together is something special. And if someone ends up, maybe thinking the grass is greener on the other side, okay, I get that. I can, I will never fault any player for looking out for their own best interest. When it comes to take care of their family or take care of themselves or do whatever it takes to be the best version of themselves, I'm all for it. In which case, I have the confidence that Dan Machocha is going to go out and find someone that in time is going to be just as good, if not better, than the player that they replaced. And Jason Moss is going to lead them and help develop them into the best possible football player as well. So when I think about the future here in Montreal, like when it comes to that stability that every team is looking for, they have it in spades, starting from ownership all the way down. They've got that now, and it's going to be here for a good long time. And as an Alouettes fan, you got to appreciate that. You got to love and be excited about that. Like to know that your team is going to be in the game day after day, like every single week, they've got the potential to be something special. Excuse me. And that's what I'm excited for our Alouettes nation, for Alouettes fans, and even for Canadian football fans to be able to have the opportunity to watch this team do what they do best is going to be so much fun. Like the future is so bright for this team. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen as the years go by, as we see Davis Alexander become, as far as I'm concerned, one of the elite quarterbacks in this league. Tyson Philpott being, the next great Canadian receiver, and so on. I mean, there's so much to like about this team. There's so much to be excited about for this team. I know we just finished the season, but I'm already ready for next season to get underway already. Like that's how excited I am by the future of this organization.
Well, I can't go to the next season yet. I have so many off-season topics I want to talk about first before we get there. Tim, what about you? Any final thoughts on the season?
My thought is, and I hated to use the term earlier before about being able to buy into what Jason Moss has brought in, but it's very important to the players and to the organization. What Jason Moss has been able to instill in that locker room, from embracing the Quebec culture, to embracing the Alouettes history, all the way up to the up to the 425 Squadron. It just instilled. There's so much to the lore that we've seen from Jason Moss since he's come here, and it seems to expand it every year, ever so slightly. People may not notice the certain things that he may do. It's certain things that we've been able to see here on on the Alouettes side through media and stuff like that. It's just like, from their own unofficial jet logo, which has so much meaning to it. I think if everybody sees, to people may not know it, and we still got to get the story behind this. They earlier in the season, in one of their post-game videos, they're giving away these medals every week to players. And then the newest one, which I still want to find out, is the infamous patch on his hat, the Alouettes patch that he had on the Grey Cup, because there's Grey Cup meaning behind it. There's just so much lore to all this that Jason Moss has brought in. The players are buying into it. I know, I hate using that term, but the players love the locker room. And again, I just want it to continue. It's not, the main thing is it's not getting old. That's the thing. It's not getting old. And also, it just seems that every year, whatever Danny brings in for Jason Moss, Jason is able to just up it just ever so slightly for that next season. And I just can't wait to see what he does in 2026.
I had it in my notes too, that on Jason Moss, that I feel like he's mellowed out quite a bit too. Like Gatorade containers and headsets are safe now in Montreal. like he seems to have really developed into his own. And I know earlier in his coaching career too, when he was with Edmonton and stuff, there was always some question marks on some of the play calling and decision making, with late game scenarios with him. And Yeah, he had a temper at times there as well. And then I look at after the Grey Cup loss, and the defining moments in that game, like he seemed perfectly calm in those post-game interviews from Jason Moss. I'm like, this man has grown a lot in his role as a head coach. And I think that speaks to exactly what you just said about that presence in the locker room for him and the team there as well, for sure. All right, I think we've completed our deep dive into the 2025 Montreal Alouettes. We've touched on a lot of topics from this team this year. Hopefully, people had a good time reminiscing on the season that was, and we gave them a little bit to be excited about heading forward into the offseason and to the season to come here. In terms of what's up next on the podcast, going to be trying to continue this series throughout the offseason, see if I can get through all the teams before free agency. It might be a little bit tough scheduling wise because, there's 9 teams in this league and there's only like 10 weeks from the end of the season to when free agency hits, and there's holidays in between, so that makes it a little bit tricky. So stay tuned. I don't have another one scheduled right now, but we'll be continuing to try to schedule those, and then we'll try to get the CFC crew back in for some episodes here soon as well. The coaching situation around the league is almost ironed out now that Toronto's named their head coach. We have to wait for Winnipeg to decide to officially let go the guy that they seemingly are letting go so that they can pursue a different offensive coordinator. But that still needs to be ironed out. I'm sure we'll talk about all the coaching news when that comes out. And then the CFL schedule, I think, is coming out in the next couple of days as well. So we have some scheduling news to talk about. And it will definitely be an interesting year in that regard with the 2026 World Cup coming into play and wreaking scheduling havoc around the CFL there as well. So all of those probably to come this month as well. So you can to get notified when those are being scheduled. You can find us on social media at CF Countdown Pod on X, Blue Sky, Facebook.com/CF Countdown Pod as well. Join the Discord. The link's in the episode description. We notify you there, and you get to chat with us extra between episodes. You can check out all the other great shows from around the Canadian Football Podcast Network, such as the Alouettes Flight Deck at CF Pod Network on X, and also our friends at the Alternative Football Network at the official AFN on X or alternativefootballnetwork.com. It's been such a pleasure to have you both here. We're in the festive season. We're in the holiday season. I feel like this was such a gift for myself and the listeners to have you both, not one, but both of you join me here. This might be one of the first times I've had 2 guests at once, and it was a lot of fun to discuss everything. So thanks for making time, especially late in the evening, because I know you're out east. So we're closing in on 11 p.m. here for you. And before we let you go, where can people once again, plug everything going on with the Alouettes Flight Deck and whatever else you guys have?
Well, pretty much anywhere you find podcasts, you're going to find us. Just search Alouettes Flight Deck. I mean, you name it. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher. I mean, if you listen to podcasts, you'll be able to find us. Just look for Alouettes Flight Deck. Or just head over to www.alouettesflightdeck.ca and you'll see the archive of our 10 seasons now of the Alouettes Flight Deck. Soon to be 300 episodes worth of the Flight Deck as well. Of course, we're all over social media, on X and on Blue Sky at Alouettes FL Deck, on Instagram at Alouettes Flight Deck, on YouTube, Alouettes Flight Deck as well. And yes, please definitely check out the YouTube page, because not only do you find our audio and video podcast, but you also get our every episode of Flight Deck Live, our post-game show that we do, win or lose, home or away, doesn't matter, we're there. And also too, if you folks want, by all means, check out our Grey Cup playlist, because we went ham, if you will, at Grey Cup. We did a ton of interviews. We were able to talk to coaches, players, and did all kinds of coverage for Grey Cup, and it was such a treat. So definitely go check that out on our YouTube page. So many great interviews, great opportunities to talk with so many people. It was an absolute blast. So make sure you check that out as well. And just if you want to give me a follow on X, you can do so at Cliffy D. If you want to follow Tim, he's at Repact, REPPACT. And definitely come hit us up, because we love talking football. And we're going to take a little breather during the holidays, but so excited to get 2026 off and running.
It took me until today to realize that Tim's handle was his last name backwards with a T at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know why it took me.
You're the third person. You're the third person.
Oh,
to
great.
Figure that out.
Nice. I got a bronze medal. Sweet.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely check out all the great content these fellas have been putting out there. I love the post-game shows. Loved all the great cup coverage going on. And congrats again on episode 300. And here's to the next 300 to go from here, which if they make it back to the Grey Cup again, you might achieve that within the next year or two with all of the content.
Well, listen, as long as people are listening, we'll keep on talking.
Sounds good. Well, once again, appreciate you guys joining me here this evening. Whatever podcast platform folks are listening on, we appreciate if you do all the fun things like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friend, share with your non-friends, share with the Alouettes fans in your life, share with the non-Alouettes fans in your life, and convert them to Alouettes fans potentially. Help us grow the show. We always appreciate that. And on behalf of Tim and Cliffy, I'm Ryan saying thank you for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.